But welcome everybody. I'm Bex Rolls, Global Marketing Manager here at Introhive. Delighted to have you all join us this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you're dialing in from. We're going to be discussing today with our panel how data and AI can transform law firms into client-centric machines. So introducing our panel, moderating today is going to be Jessica Bolt, Senior Director for Legal Industry here at Introhive. Delighted to be joined by Amy Washburn, Director of CRM at Quinn Emanuel, and Mike Anastasiadis, Director of Solutions at Hype2. So before I hand over to Jessica, we will be recording today's session and this will be sent out to everybody tomorrow, so you will get a copy of the recording. If anybody does have any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat and we will answer those at the end. And I will now hand over to Jessica.
Thank you, Bex. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So the first thing that we'd like to discuss with Amy and Michael is what their definition of one firm means. As we know, law firms are transitioning from the me to we concept and working on globalizing their firm, looking across different practice areas, seeing new opportunities that might exist across their client base. Thank you, Bex. And so the first question that I have is, what does one firm mean to each of you? How can firms achieve a holistic view of breaking down those silos, increasing their efficiencies, synthesizing some of that law firm data? So Amy, we'll start with you. Curious to hear, where do you see your firm sitting on this maturity curve model? And what challenges or roadblocks have you encountered along the way?
Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Well, challenges and roadblocks, geez, that's a big question. I could probably spend the whole time on that, but I'll try to keep it brief. I can't say we really sit in one place on the model. Different regions and practice areas fall into different stages. I would say we apply a baseline level of requirements across the board as one firm, and then enhance our system to accommodate the specific needs of a region or practice area as we learn more. But to answer the question, I would say we fall in the range of augment and collaborate. And I really like that we can use this model combined with the specific capabilities we have at our firm as a way to communicate where we stand with our various stakeholder groups and use it as a way to guide us. One of the biggest challenges would probably be a resistance to change. Most of the time, though, I feel the resistance is due to a lack of time. I find most people want or know there's a better way, but just don't feel like they have enough time to learn. So I focus on finding ways to give them back time. By understanding how they work and trying to find a way to slip into their process.
Thank you, Amy. And what other future opportunities might you see in terms of where you're sitting today? Are you trying to get your firm to move along into one particular bucket, or are those regions kind of progressing on their own with the goal eventually to make it up to that collaborate, align, and we?
Yeah, our eventual goal would definitely be to get from me to we and follow this curve. As I said, the model is great as a way to use as a guide. And I just put in the specific features that we have that help define those categories for us specifically. And so people can look at it and say, okay, well, we're doing this. We're now at augment. We're now adding this capability, and now we're now at collaborate. And the goal would definitely to get to align in the future.
Thank you. And Mike, I'll turn this over to you now. Definitely something that we continue to hear is firms only know what they know, and they don't always know where to start. And in speaking to you and to Amy about this, I've described, and for those of you on the audience, my IKEA furniture example. It's like you take that big box out from IKEA, dump it on your living room floor, pieces are scattered everywhere, and the first thing you're saying to yourself is, Where are the instructions? And do I have all the pieces? And where do I start? So keeping that idea in mind, Mike, where do you see the majority of firms falling along this maturity curve model on their journey to achieve that we status, that one firm status? And what trends have you been seeing recently across the industry with respect to some of those challenges and the opportunities as well?
Yeah, Jessica, thanks. I guess when I think of one firm, I think of it as more of sort of a cultural approach where firm decisions are made after varied opinions are gathered and consensus is developed, and firms that we speak with at Hike 2 sort of they really sort of follow all over, I guess, the curve when it comes to this to the one firm I guess status, and really many firms are still in the lower end of the spectrum. I guess I still see silos within the firms. So maybe an example. I always sort of think sometimes of the practice areas within law firms as similar to states in the United States. I know this is a global audience, but just kind of for me, it kind of rings true a little bit. There's 50 states, and seemingly the states kind of work independently oftentimes, and there's frustration sometimes at a federal level that we don't work maybe a little bit more closely together, which again may be similar to practice areas. Practice areas, tend to work sort of independently, which limits knowledge sharing, limits collaboration amongst the practice groups, and the biggest challenge I sort of see is a cultural one where attorneys, practice groups tend to want to go it alone and tend to want to sort of protect their autonomy. I feel like the opportunities, I think that's maybe the sort of second part of the question that you had asked Amy, Jessica, are tremendous. So when practice groups collaborate, you're going to have better client service. You're going to have increased client retention. That absolutely should follow. Knowledge sharing amongst attorneys is also going to be a definite benefit of the one firm approach. And I feel like there are lots of different ways attorneys can share information about their expertise with each other, whether it's a lunch and learn, a presentation, whatever it is. And so I feel like the results of is going to be better informed attorneys, more innovation from the firm, and just sort of really a lot of goodness. So I think ultimately the one firm approach it's a smart one. It's doable, and it's going to lead ultimately to sort of more integrated, more client focused law firm.
Thank you. Mike, we'll stay with you for the next question here. I'll shift gears a little bit, talking to the adoption of CRM technology in legal. And there tends to be a belief to those outside the legal industry that lawyers and law firms are adverse to technology. I think those of us who work within the industry certainly know that that is a misconception. The legal industry does want technology and they will embrace it, but it has to be good. And that one is really critical. So any of the solutions and products that can deliver high quality results, along with capturing various efficiencies to gain back time for the attorneys and professional staff, that is of paramount interest. So the question that I have for you is, looking at some of these technology trends today, AI or otherwise. AI is a phrase I think we're all hearing in our everyday vernacular now. What do you see as a necessity for law firms moving into 2024 and beyond? And are there any successes or pitfalls that you can share with our audience with respect to CRM rollouts at various law firms?
I think that none of this maybe will be earth shattering in the 5 trends you see on this slide. I don't think. Well, maybe maybe a couple of these would be maybe a little surprising. Certainly, artificial intelligence isn't going to be surprising. Machine learning isn't going to be surprising. I mean, I'll start there. Automating, artificial intelligence, machine learning, automating contract review, legal research, AI-powered chatbots, enhancing client service. Being able to set up chat GPT-like functionality within a law firm to find client information and emails very, very quickly. It's all stuff that firms are doing today, firms that we are working with are doing today. Data analytics, again, not maybe not so super exciting. It's super exciting to us because I feel like I'm a bit of a data geek. I do feel like, there's so much data out there, and data allows you to make more informed decisions, gain insights and into market trends, client behavior. Really, using data is going to allow firms to better plan, better plan for how many attorneys they need, how much support staff the firms need. They can, be much better, marketing the clients as an example. And then maybe the third one I'll give you off of the five circles here is the relationship mapping piece. This was necessary today, it was necessary last year and 10 years ago. It's going to be necessary in 2024 and beyond. The ability to analyze emails, calendars, social media, other sources to map and visualize relationships between attorneys and clients is key. This type of information really also allows firms to extend relationships, create new relationships, and collaborate with clients in a more efficient and impactful way. So those are some of the top trends I see. When your second part of your question, I think had to do with CRM rollouts and such. And what we at Hike 2 and I've prior to this, my last companies I worked at Salesforce and Oracle as well, and did a lot with in the legal space there. We always encouraged firms to think bigger, right? So think beyond the CRM. Think of how the solution that you choose could be used in different places at the firm. So think of your decision more as sort of a platform decision versus sort of just this departmental type solution. And some places where I've seen CRM rollouts not go as well are when there's really sort of lack of buy-in from management at the highest level. And that's, again, maybe somewhat obvious, but having top level management is crucial from an adoption and a sort of overall success standpoint. And then the last place I've seen where rollouts could potentially run into issues is with the data, right? So ensuring the accuracy of the data, the integrity of the data prior to migrating it to a CRM is key. Cleansing data, consolidating data well ahead of the implementation and rollout is definitely a best practice that we advise our law firm clients to take on.
Thank you. And that is a perfect segue for you, Amy, because we know that one of the top challenges law firms face is keeping all of that client data up to date and in a centralized location. So based on your experience as the CRM director at Quinn Emanuel, what recommendations would you have for other law firms to help them maximize their CRM investment?
Sure. I would say that coming from a software development and implementation background, I like to use proof of concepts and agile software development methodology to implement what are called MVPs, or minimum viable product, which are essentially small bits of value added features. It works well for us because, as it turns out, attorneys respond pretty well to evidence. So I present these MVPs to my oversight committee or release them to the attorneys to see if we're on track as like a temperature check. If we are, we'll continue to the next MVP. And if not, we can course correct without having invested too much into an idea. And then kind of touching a bit on what Mike said about making sure your data is clean before implementing it to CRM. I agree to a point. I think sometimes we'll get buried in making sure it's perfect, and then it doesn't get done. And finding the resources to cleanse it isn't always possible. So that's where I kind of like to use, like with Introhive, we can customize it to pull in certain data that we know would be good, and leaving the rest in the Hive, for example.
Perfect, thank you. And I'll stay with you for the next one here. Now we'll kind of shift slightly to talking about how you can leverage technology to build that holistic approach to overall client management. So we know getting that data into the CRM, having it accurate, maintaining it, keeping it up to date, having that centralized location is really a critical step one. But beyond that, and moving forward, what other tools and reports do your lawyers and your business development professionals find most useful when they're evaluating both the current and future client opportunities within your law firm?
So I agree with Mike in that CRM should be seen as a platform. I want to implement technology that is seamless and minimizes disruption to our attorneys. So integration and collaboration is very important to me. So in order to do that, we funnel everything through our CRM. I don't want to give our attorneys yet another system to remember. So I won't implement anything that if it won't integrate with our CRM. And it needs to integrate well. Going back to what you had said earlier, the technology needs to work. It can't just say, oh, yes, we integrate. Well, does it integrate well? Then once I get our attorneys into the CRM, my focus is to sort of streamline the system, present the right features and data at the right time. It can be really overwhelming and difficult to figure out what you need to do. So I can use like configuration or permissions or dynamic screens to show only the relevant features necessary for the task at hand. Whether you're an associate, a partner, or a secretary, they might have different views. And with Introhive, as I said earlier, we can pull all our relationships into the Hive, but then only those that are relevant will pull into CRM so that it eliminates a lot of the noise for them. And then we can still give them the link if they need to dig further. They can still dig further into the Hive, but it's just not front and center so that they can kind of cut through a lot of the chaos.
Thank you. And Mike, what additional thoughts do you have with respect to critical pieces of technology that help to manage the overall client relationship and opportunities?
I mean, the obvious ones are CRM, document management, matter management, but I'll give you two others that I think are very important as well. So workflow automation, I feel like, so when I say that, a way to automate, document generation, contract review, if a firm can better automate those types of processes, errors can be reduced, firms can become more efficient, attorneys can spend more time, billing clients and less time on, some of this admin work. So I think that's always goodness. So my suggestion there is to look for a CRM or, a document management solution or whatever type solution that has strong workflow automation. Definitely a time saver and a money saver. Analytics tools would be the other piece of this. I think I said earlier, I was a bit of a data geek. So maybe I'll go back here again. I think data is just critical to a law firm's success. Firms are sitting on a mountain of data and just oftentimes they just, they don't know what to do with it. So, choosing a solution that's going to, better analyze client data, track key trends, opportunities, et cetera, I think is going to really be very important for firms. I know Power BI is popular. Tableau is popular. Both solutions work well. I feel like those types of solutions are, really important in an investment. I think in a powerful analytics solution, as well as sort of the thought leadership around how to do analytics within the firm. I think those types of investments are well worth the investment in the long run.
Thank you. And one final question before we turn it over to a brief Q&A session for any of our attendees. Outside of the topics that we've covered today, are there any additional trends or opportunities that you see for the future in 2024 and beyond for the legal industry? Items related to AI, related to mergers and acquisitions, having foundations. Very open-ended question, kind of meant to really just come front of mind with what you've been seeing. So Mike, we'll start with you, and then Amy, I'll turn the same open-ended question over to you to finish.
besides artificial intelligence, a trend that we've seen in the last 6 months is an emphasis on contract management. So, I think people in the audience know, this type of solution automates contract management, reduces, the risk of human error, a little bit of the automation emphasis I was just talking about a few minutes ago. But I feel like these types of solutions really allow firms to have, a place where contracts are stored, templates, standard documents can be used for contracts, saving firms time. Different parties can, exchange comments and shorten negotiation time. The workflows can be put in place, speeding up the approval process. It's a time saver. It's a money saver. We've talked to a few firms recently about Ironclad, a contract lifecycle management solution that, I found to be pretty popular in the legal industry. We've talked about others as well. So that one is surprisingly, contract management snuck up on us a little bit. So to summarize, besides AI, besides machine learning, I'd say contract management, that trend is coming up a little bit.
Thank you. And Amy, any final thoughts from you?
Well, I think it's a really exciting time to be in the legal industry. There's so much digital transformation going on right now, and legal tech, I feel, has been a little behind. So what's nice about it is that we can learn from what's been done outside of law and see the path that other companies have taken and use that as a guide sometimes. Obviously, Gen I is everywhere, but at the same time, it can be really intimidating, and firms may not be quite ready for it because the foundational data may not be there. So I find that to be my opportunity. Also, like, we can use the buzz around Gen AI and use it for funding projects so that we can help lay that foundation. Or what I like to do, because we have a small team, I'll enlist the support of our vendors, our existing ones or new ones. Many of third-party vendors are finding ways to incorporate AI and Gen AI into their systems, and they're including it at no additional cost. So I can use that as a quick win and say, hey, look, we are implementing it. We've got AI. Introhive already comes with AI out of the box. So I'm reminding people that we do have AI. Maybe not Gen AI yet, but it's AI, and that's the buzz term. So I'll use it. But I think we'll get there. And I think using systems for what they're designed for, reducing duplicate entry of systems. There's a lot of, we put a lot of the same data in a lot of different places. So I want to consolidate that, figure out which system is a system of record, and then consolidating the data to be there, and then integrating the systems so that there doesn't have to be as much duplication of work. So a lot of that workflow automation, I think, is a good trend.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank our panelists, Amy and Mike, for joining us today and providing their insights and feedback. If you would like to discuss where your firm sits on that maturity curve model, please feel free to contact Introhive to learn more. And with that said, I'd like to open the floor to any questions or comments from our attendees. And thank you all for attending.
If anybody does have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat now. We'll give it a couple of minutes if anybody would like to ask any questions. Of course, after the session as well, if you have questions afterwards, you can absolutely reach out to us and we can put them forward to our panel. But feel free to write them in the chat. It doesn't look like we have any questions, so we will be sending the recording out tomorrow, so look out for that in your inbox, and then like I said, you can reply to that if you do have any questions after today. Oh, actually there is a question, sorry. Sorry, we have one question. So this is for you, Amy. Sorry. How did Quinn Emanuel get the attorneys to agree to a corporate CRM utilization?
Yeah, good question. It actually happened before I got here, but it was started from our partners, actually. A lot of partners will come and ask, is there, I need a way to track my activities, like business development activities, like who should I be calling next, like who haven't I talked to? And because of that, that helped fuel the ability to bring the CRM and Introhive actually together at the same time. I hope that helps answer that question. But yeah, it was really from the partners. There was a need, they were expressing it. I could say, then we can also reach back out and say, do you also have this need? Just get a few key partners that were behind that project and help justify it.
That's great. I know, Mike, you work obviously as consultancies. I don't know if with some of your clients that you've worked with, I know not directly with Quinn Emanuel, but if this is something that you've come across yourself or experienced, or kind of any advice you can give that you would give to your clients.
It's very similar to what Amy said. It's top down, coming from the partners, coming from senior attorneys, always is, oftentimes is the impetus. The other, it's a trick, but certainly a trend maybe that we've seen are with newer attorneys to a firm that have used a CRM in the past, a robust CRM such as Salesforce in the past. When they come to a new law firm that is maybe using a CRM that they're not excited about, oftentimes they can make some noise and start to get an evaluation going. So, and it's identifying those people, what kind of experience they've had with these other CRMs, how much they would want to be involved in the day-to-day of choosing a new CRM. And then once a CRM is chosen from our standpoint, hike two, we can help. We've helped firms, we've advised them on new CRMs, but then also when it's in place, we'll implement it for them, and then we'll be able to work with those attorneys during implementation to actually get their buy-in, their feedback on what the system should look like. So I feel like partners and perhaps newer attorneys to the firm that are, let's call them CRM savvy.
I can add also, Bex, one word of caution, I would say, is a lot of attorneys seem to feel that implementing a CRM is like getting a word where you just install it and it's done. But CRMs are not like that. And I think it's good to be transparent about that in the beginning. I've actually had this even before I came to Quinn Emanuel. I didn't work in law before, but technology CIOs or whatever, they would always say, when are you going to be done? When are you going to be done? I'm like, there is no done with CRM. We're always trying to make money for the firm. So that's just one bit of advice there.
Continuous journey. We've had another question come in. So when CRM is implemented, what is generally done across a firm, or perhaps is it only for the business development staff?
Is that, I wonder, in terms of training, or I guess I wonder what the context of the question is. I can maybe answer it from a training perspective. What do you think, Beck?
I'm thinking it's who uses it.
I guess we could do it in a couple of ways. Maybe from a training perspective, kind of a rollout and how it's rolled out the firm. Yes.
Who uses it? Thanks, Jim.
So we can cover both. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Amy, you'll have this more maybe firsthand. I mean, certainly firms that we work with, oftentimes, I think in the initial question, it is the business development and marketing staff will oftentimes sort of be the initial people in the system, and gradually attorneys, partners will start using the system once the value has been sort of established. We definitely try to, though, I will say, early on, get as many attorneys involved as possible, especially those, kind of go back to what I said earlier, the partners and some of those newer attorneys, those champions, let's call them, within the firm, those CRM champions. We want to get the system in their hands ASAP, because we want them seeing how powerful it is, how much of a difference it can make, how much in terms of not just retaining clients, but gaining more clients is very apparent to them. So then they start spreading the word to other attorneys, and gradually we get more and more buy-in, and more people end up using the system. So I don't know, Amy, if that's the way what you've seen at Quinn Emanuel and other firms.
Yes, certainly. Our marketing business development team were our biggest focus, because they're the data's oftentimes they're the custodians of it, and they're being asked to reproduce that data for various different marketing activities. And so I do focus a lot on them to make sure that they can use it. So they're power users in the system. They're using it every day. And then with the attorneys, what I do is I try to draw them in with smaller features. I don't need them to do everything in the CRM. Just find like a couple of things, like how to look up who we know. That's a big one. Reduce those wide emails, RFIs, and say just look in Salesforce, and then also maybe give them a report back that says this is who you know, or this is who we know, and sort of kind of keep them at bay a little bit, because there's so much to do with implementing a CRM that I just kind of try to keep the attorneys limping along a little bit while I get marketing really fully into the system. And also I would say make sure that you have enough licenses to cover, if you're going to cover partners, you have to make sure you cover their associates that they work with and their secretaries, because they're the ones doing the work, right, a lot of the time. So if only the partners have licenses, that was actually one of the challenges I had, is that we only licensed our partners in the beginning. Now we have enough licenses to cover all of our attorneys and the secretaries, and it's much better that way.
Yeah, makes sense. And thank you for sharing kind of your own experiences on that and your insights of kind of what you went through at your firm. I'm just going to check if we have any more questions. Nope, that is all of them. I think we will wrap it up there. If any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us when we email you the recording tomorrow. Thank you again to Jessica, Amy, and Mike. Really appreciate you hosting our panel today, and also for everyone that joined us to watch us and listen in and to hear the advice from our panel. So with that said, I hope everyone has a great rest of their morning or afternoon, and look forward to seeing you at another one of our events soon. Thanks, everyone.